I do invite Moses Moga to come and introduce the next speakers. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Moses Nolia Moga, and I'll be moderating our next topic, balancing family and education. We live in a brave new world, one in which our competitive economy forces us to stay ahead of the curve to simply survive. This means even a college degree is no guarantee of a secure future. It means we need advanced degrees. Sometimes we need to retrain in other fields. Having children, of course, changes everything, and many parents feel as though they cannot devote their energies to both parenting and furthering their careers. Some try to wait until their kids are grown up. The problem with this approach is that waiting that long may just be too late to redirect your life to education. Balancing family and education is hard but not impossible. Many people have done it and have changed their lives for the better. Our panelists here is one good example. Before we introduce them, we will be passing pen and paper to those in the audience who will be asking questions after the discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Dr. George Marie and Ms. Amy Jumari. George and Amy are a couple. They have kids and have earned advanced degrees while raising a family. Dr. Marie earned a Bachelor of Civil Engineering from Makerere University in Uganda before coming to the U.S. In the U.S., she earned an Associate of Arts degree and a doctorate in pharmacy. She works for Walmart Health and Wellness. Ms. Amy Marie earned a Bachelor of Law from Makerere University. Then a diploma in legal practice from Law Development Center and a master's in international diplomacy from Norwich University in Vermont, USA. She works with County Attorney's Office here in Kansas. Having said that, let's get to business. Dr. Marie, let's start the topic off by asking you, how do you create balance between family and school coursework? Thank you.
The president of the KCNA, executive members, the board of directors, KCNA, distinguished guests with us today, Dr. Professor Randall Leon, our mothers, parents, brothers, sisters, and our children. We're very grateful to be here today and to present the topic that has just been introduced by Dr. Nobi. My name is George Longer. And we're not going to waste much of your time. We'll try to be on point. And like you said, there will be questions later, so you can set those. But if you feel that you cannot wait for the Q&A session, you can go right ahead and just give us a question if you need clarification as we go ahead.
We did sit down and discuss this, Our approach is going to be more our experience, what we ought to have done, what we would have done different, or what we did right or wrong. We hope that by this, those who will follow us would take the ideal route, because we didn't get the chance to, for example, have such a presentation. George is going to present to us this topic, and I'll be available during the Q&A if there's any questions that will be directed straight to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just for us to know, we're talking about education and family. We're trying to balance them. What do we understand by that? I just thought that we should come up with a very simple definition of each. And education, that this would be a fitting definition for this occasion. It's a formal process of increasing your knowledge, understanding, and skills for the purpose of for the purpose of advancing your career, if you're not changing to a different field or changing career. In my case, I did bachelor's in civil engineering, but thought it was time to try something different, or improving position in your current performance in your current position, so that you may be more productive for whoever you're working for, or if you're working for yourself, so you can increase earning and livelihood. And we thought this would also be a fitting definition for a family. It's the smallest organized unit of a community. For those who are familiar with scientific terms, that would be like the atom or the molecule or the cell of a human society. And family is the smallest community where everyone intimately knows each other. So in KCNA, there's just commonly just one family structure where there's parents and then there's children and then there's dependents. But it is a little bit more complicated when you come to the United States. At least a family is composed of one person, and they usually have a physical location called home. And of course, like I already mentioned, the types of families we had in KCNA were more traditional type, where the parents and the children, they are dependents. And in the US, non-traditional families could be just one person and his pets, or people, in extreme cases, people of the same sex with children or not children, that could be family. But I believe for most of us, the family is parents, children, and other relatives. So balancing education and family, the two are very important, and it is difficult, or it is not advisable to dwell or to give more importance to one and ignore the other. They fit into each other, and they're different, of course. Family is it's there forever. Its composition may change over time as kids grow up, they leave home. Or you get new family members as children get born, or as you adopt children, or things happen in life. And also, we thought it's important to put education in perspective, that it is only for a season. It's not something you do forever. You just go in there, achieve what you have got to achieve, and get to use it for the rest of your life. It may change your family a lot, maybe from working so many hours a day, 24/7, or just it may change your life so that you don't have to work so many hours, maybe 8 hours a day, and still be able to meet your basic needs as a family. And This is kind of the standard approach that we found as we tried to make some little research as to what other people do. I think one important element is that, the advice that is kind of universal is that you should have a schedule. First of all, you have a major schedule. If you're going for a 2-year program or a 4-year program or a 6-year program, and in that schedule, don't forget to put in, important family events, things that are going to be happening, like birthdays, holidays, anniversaries, and the new events. If your family is grown and maybe some kids will be marrying off, you'll have to consider those in your long-term planning of your school. Also, important school events like exams, projects, and competitions. A lot of those they make known to you up front as you get into your programs, and them well ahead of time. And also there is short-term schedule. You go into the weekly, monthly planning of your days, and make sure that as a family, if you have kids like ours, you have to accommodate for emergencies. Where I went to school was in Minnesota, sometimes there's like snow emergencies and things like that, and they can throw you off your balance as far as the schedule is concerned. In the short-term schedule, make sure that you make time for family, especially on weekends and things like holidays. It is very, very important that you be home at bedtime and waking up time, because that's very important for kids when they're still very young. But if they're grown-ups, you don't have to worry about that. So the question comes to how to execute your schedule. It might look pretty good on paper, but it's probably not very easy to follow, as some of the youth have indicated. They write everything down and mark everything as they go. I wasn't that kind of person. I didn't have that background, so it was really, really hard. But I just tried to make sure that I get things done at the right time, and try to also work ahead of your schedule. In doing so, you might save some time and surprise your family by being around and expect you to be away. And that's usually a very, very pleasant time. And as a family, you realize that there are things you cannot really put off, whether you like it or not, like the birth of a child. I had the honor of having all the 3 kids that were born to us at the time when I was a student. So, whether your schedule allows for it or whether something is going on in school, you must be there. And especially if the mother is the one going to school, you cannot be there. You cannot not be there when you're having a child. And there are things like funerals and family events. I have had to go to those too as a student. And we're coming more to the approach or to our experience. And at one point, Amy and I had to make a decision whether you're going to go to school or not. And if we're going to school, why are we doing it, and what is going to be involved? Things we ask ourselves, the career, what kind of career are we going to pursue? At my point, I had the option of going for maybe a master's in engineering, but I just did some research and changed my mind after that, after the research. And when you're making the decision, make sure that everybody is involved in your family. Communication is key, and your spouse must be first to know, and children get to talk to them about the changes that are about to happen in the family, how they're going to be affected, especially in the sense that it's going to be less time, or some of the time that was intended for them to be used for something else. And while doing the research, one of the guiding principles is, where do you want to see your family in the next 5, 10, or 15 years? Are you happy where you're at? you think you'll be happy where you're at in the next few years, 10 years, or even 2 years. And if you think the future could be better than what it is, or you can project a better future, how are you going to get into that future? And your current job, or career, or position, or what you're doing, going to take you there in the future you desire? Do you need to change your job? Do you need to get a promotion? Do you need lifestyle changes so that you can get to that position? And if you decide that you're going to go to school, just make sure that you choose a career that aligns with your strengths and talents, like the youth that mentioned earlier in the presentation. And you should look into what you're studying. Is it going to pay off in the end? Is there a demand for what you're going to study in the market? Look at current demand and also the future forecast. There are a lot of resources you can use to be able to see that. And also you have to consider the option of affordability. You're going to be able to afford the education that you plan to go to. If you can afford to pay yourself, whether you're going to get student loans or scholarships, are those even available? Those are things you have to think about and make sure they're in place before you probably consider to go back to school. And also the duration of the program, that is very important. The longer the program, the harder it is to get it actually done. So just look at your strengths and weaknesses in that area. And so after you've made the decision to go back to school, it's very important that your family sit down to draw a plan. Most important thing to consider is how you're going to survive for the time that one of the spouse or one of the head of the family is going to be in school. If you can decide whether both spouses will want to go to school at the same time or one after the other. You have to consider things like childcare and other dependents. Will they be able to withstand the change that's about to come? And also you have to decide where to live and whether you're going to be separate or together. That will depend on the choice of where you're going to study. I had an example of a friend who was originally from Ethiopia. So after his first year, he decided that it would be better for his wife and kids to go back to Ethiopia while he stays here to complete the program in the United States. And to me, that was not an option. I waited too long to be united with my family. I couldn't bear another month my family staying away. And of course, it comes with challenges. One of the challenges is why we're talking about this, keeping the balance. Mostly it boils down to time commitment, how you allocate your time. And as I mentioned earlier, having a schedule is very good, and sticking with the schedule is a very good thing. One of the challenges is also emotional stability. As you go through the program, you experience ups and downs. And there's a tendency to transfer your disappointments from school, take them to your family. Everybody in the family feels that. That is very, very challenging. And sometimes also what happens at home, you carry it to school and can affect how you perform. And one of the most major challenges is usually finances. Among us, the Kuku is not known for parents who pass on wealth to their young ones. And it's a challenge that I think we who gathered here should try to work on or to resolve. Make sure that by the time you pass on or by the time you're not able to work or you don't have the energy, you're able to have your kids or grandkids inherit something for them. some of my colleagues didn't have to pay a dime, so I can add right now. I've been working for 4 years, and still below zero. Personal challenges include like our background. Our youth did mention. Our youth did mention that we come from different backgrounds, and I concur with that. The speed with which students who started going to school in America learn things is way faster than how I used to absorb knowledge back home. So it took me probably twice longer to understand stuff that it just get in the moment. I had to use computers for the first time and things like that. So if you are from a similar background like me, those are things you should think about as you plan to go back to school. And I think the most important thing is just commitment. You decided I'm going to do this and just stick with it. Always remind yourself what is the purpose for this project that you're undertaking going back to school. Keep your family and everybody on the same page. Just look at the purpose. It's for the betterment of tomorrow. So whatever I'm suffering now, whatever inconveniences I'm facing, I believe it's worth it. So with that in mind, you have to prioritize whatever you have, allocate your priorities. For instance, some of us at the end of the year qualify for things like tax return, and you could use that towards helping out with your education. Another option is you can use it to buy a nice suit or the car you always wanted to buy. So that feeds into prioritizing. And you must be willing to sacrifice other areas of your life. There are certain things that we just get used to doing and we just do it. It doesn't matter how much they cost. But when you decide you want to go to school, you're probably not going to have those things. And if you're married with a spouse and children and other dependents, you need to really trust each other. Just know that this is for the best of everybody. And with your spouse and family, you have to love and lean on each other. That helps a lot. You need support, and you just need to go everywhere and look all possible places where you can get support. From home, you need that. If you're not getting it, just ask for it. That I need your help here. I just need you to say something. You need encouragement from friends and family. I need to be reminded of your goals. Sometimes it's just waking up in the morning, going to school and coming back, and it becomes very dreary. So you just need that support to always be there. And communication is also key. You need to know what your goals are concisely, so you don't get derailed along the way. Pray to God, let your family know what you're up to. Just be communicating among yourselves all the time about the difficulties that you may be facing. And there will be times on the road that you achieve certain things, you reach a milestone that you need to sit down and celebrate with your family and friends, and also feel part of the education route that you're taking. Another important person who should know what's going on in your life should be your employers. If you're working, planning on your job, a lot of them are very understanding. They'll be flexible with the schedule, with your schedule, to allow you to do a lot of things. Give you time off to study for an exam and things like that. So just don't keep it to yourself. All right. And I had mentioned that love, it's something that is not tangible, you really cannot put a value in it, but it makes us go. So just try to love each other and make the best of the situation you're in. And basically you get what you give. If you are the spouse going to school, just be as nice as possible to the one who's staying home or taking care of the kids. But if you're both going to school, don't vent your frustrations on each other. Just take care of each other, value each other's contribution to the education project, and be able to express it in love. There's room for you to also vent your disappointments and frustrations, but it should all be in the spirit of love. And always reflect on what you're doing, envision yourself at the end of it. And enjoy the trip, enjoy it with your family, and that's the family is the reason why you go for this. All right. So it's not for it's for the family, and your family will always be there after all the studying is done. So take care of your family while you do your study. I'm going to move up a little bit. Summary, weigh your options, make a decision whether to go to school or not to go to school, and communicate with everybody who's going to be involved in one way or another. Stay focused on the point. Get all the support you need, get help whenever you can. Enjoy the ride, celebrate your successes. All right.
Thank you very much, George. His presentation is both from whether it's the husband going to school or the wife. Our perceptions were all put in there. But I wanted to emphasize and conclusion from what the young adult said earlier. If we're to be able to save for college for our children, if we want to live a more fulfilled life, the life we're all going to dream of, if you want to have the resources, you may have to do it now than later. Tomorrow may never come. Is it easy to do? No. Did we enjoy the ride? No. Are we reaping? Are we harvesting what we sowed? Yes, we are. We are happy we did it. I do encourage the young couples, those who are already in the middle of it, go back to school. It's better today than tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you, Annie, and thank you, George. Going to the question session. Okay. First question is, I'd love to go back to school for advanced degree, but the challenges are stopping me. Where to find money? How to find free money to go back to school? Basically, they're saying that, or someone is saying that they want to go back to school, but they don't know how or where to get the money to sponsor that job.
I look at the two sections of that question. I'll start from the how part. You're not going to sit in your house, you're not going to sit in the basement and just expect to know. We have to be curious. We have to ask questions. We have neighbors. We are here. We're a community. That's why part of this meeting or convention to me is that we need to ask questions. Amy, what do you do? Amy, you work at the attorney's office. How did you get there? What do you need to be where you are today? What career would lead you to what kind of a job? Or even how much do you earn? You know, sometimes somebody works for $10 an hour and somebody's working for 25, or even what you earn in an hour, somebody's earning in a whole day. Okay, information is power. It is key. Ask the questions. We have the internet for those who can use the computer. Do your research. Or even go to the community colleges, go to universities in your community, go to those career advisors or counselors, ask them those questions. They will give you the options of what they have. Okay? The free money. The free money ride. For my first degree, I was fully paid for. We might all have that kind of a background, but when you cross the ocean, things change. It's not the same. You may have to take the student loans that you will pay after you're done. If you have other options, well, look for them. If you don't, you may have to take the loans and pay them 25 years, 30 years, 15 years. If that is what you got to do, you got to do what you got to do. Thank you.
I have one more question. It's going to be a little bit long, but just listen. Because coming together like this is good to teach and learn from both kids and parents. With the little knowledge we obtain from school, as parents, how do we show good example to our kids in places like these? When some of us end up being arrested by police for getting drunk in another place like this, where we are coming to teach our kids good things. It's basically asking that some of us parents are actually not showing a good example to our kids. We need help. Please help us as parents so that we can, be able to help our kids better. It's still very balanced.
I'm trying to think of how to answer that question. Well, let's look at the alternative. Okay, you were born in Kajukeji, Juba, Uganda, or even Kenya. You were raised by parents who had strong traditional cultural background. You went to school and you were educated. Then this opportunity to come to the US, whether it was to study or as an immigrant. You found yourself in the US where the culture is different. And now you have children. And you're raising these children. You ought to have the right tools to raise these children in this community. I can tell you, if you use 100% the same tools that our parents used to raise us and use them in the US, I bet you it's not going to work. We have to bend it somehow. We have to blend it. It's the truth. It might not be easy to take, but it's the truth. However, if you choose to sit in your house, sit at the basement, and go like, I don't want to interact with our community members because I will expose my kids to the drinking and whatever it is. Are you just going to have the folk stories in your house and hopefully the kids will learn all that? Are you going to bring them for this conference and hopefully your children will take the good part of it and the negative of what happened last night? I'm not sure what happened last night, so I'm kind of like, I don't know what happened. I am positive. I think it's the right move. We are so proud of our young kids who are taking lead in this. When you go back home or after the conference, you sift out the negative part that you want your kids to take and re-emphasize the positive part that you want your children to have. Exclusion to me is not the solution. Inclusion, togetherness, joy is the way to go. Thank you.
The next question is, if both parents decide to go to school, who's going to take care of the kids? Are we gonna adopt culture here, the white culture here, where you would ask your mom or the kids' grandparents to babysit for you and you pay them? Are we gonna do that? Is there any other option?
Thank you. It is really a matter of choice. There are a lot of options. And you also have the choice for both parents to go to school at the same time, and you have the choice to make whether one of you is going to stay home. It's basically how you want it done. The most important thing is to do it. So I'm going to put an example for those who know what electric current is. Usually takes the easiest route that is less resistance. So I would take the route that has less resistance. So if you're gonna leave the kids at home and you want them to go to school, that means you probably need to pay somebody. Or if you have your parents, if they're not working and they accept to stay home, that's a good thing. But most likely you don't have the parents, most likely you need to pay somebody, and most likely you don't have the money. So probably I would recommend that one spouse stays at home, the other one goes to school, when the other one is done, is working, then the other one can go to school, and that was how we did it in Demi. I went to school for 4 years, she stayed home. After I worked for 1 year, she was able to go back to school and got done. We did get out somehow. We were very lucky that my mother lived with us, and she took care of the kids whenever we were not both available. But we didn't want her to shoulder that burden. It would not be fair for her.
Thank you. This topic is really for those of us here who want to go back. It's not like going back to school. It's not for those who, when you weigh all the options, it's almost impossible. It's for those who just need a little push. And I have a question here that I have a lady here who needs a little push. And the question goes, I'm a single mom. I wanted to go back to school to earn a degree in this part of the world. What can I do to be able to pay my rent and my bills, as well as going to school?
I guess my answer would depend on even the ages of the children. That would make it a little bit different. But I know different states have even programs that will support single parents and parents who go to school full time. While George was in school, I wasn't working, I was staying home full time. We still needed to take care of our basics. We needed shelter, we needed water, we needed food, we needed transport. I did go to the county. You have to be all paying sometimes and ask for help. We were able to get assistance to pay for our rent. And he worked. I was really full-time home and having children. He was going to school full-time and sometimes worked part-time to take care of some of the bills. That was our choice. So the state helped pay some of our bills, which was shelter, and we worked on the basics like transport. You live with the bare minimum. The Kuku community, the Sudanese, we are very good at that. We like it glamorous, we like it high class. But sometimes you take a step back. Take a step back, take it easy. When you don't even have the support from your neighbors, they're like, look at God, like, see the kind of car they're driving. You know what I would say back from my head? Yes, just 4 years, wait and see me 4 years later. I'm not happy. It's all about attitude. It's about perseverance. It's about what you want. How much are you willing to sacrifice and suffer for the time period? Some of those helps are there. Depending on the age of your kids, if it's not an option for you, some parents even wait until the kids grow up after high school, then they go back to school. If that works for you, I will do that.
Okay. And with that, we have one more question, and this one is coming from not from a parent. Because what do you do as a child who wants to pursue a certain degree, but your parents don't agree because of the fact that if the degree doesn't make enough money?
That was a brave question. I think if you're younger, your options are different. You can afford to study something of your choice and pursue things that don't seem to pay off financially. Generally, sometimes do. So I think, I'm not sure who it was, but one of the youth that you mentioned that, you have to be creative about what you're doing. Just follow your heart and be creative, and you never know, you might actually become an employer, or, and you would employ the higher paid people, you actually would be paying them. So I would recommend that you pursue your heart, you still have maybe some time, and see where it leads you, and if you need to change in future, you can do that. You don't have to really decide right away and say, okay, I'm going for this high paying sort of profession, and then get frustrated on the way. I would advise parents of that child to be flexible.
Thank you. The take-home message is it takes more to balance family and education. It requires dedication, time management, both husband and wife, relatives, babysitters, daycares. This may not be all the solutions. Sometimes the solutions lie in accepting that perfection is impossible, and having realistic expectation is key. So, when you were in school, you probably were getting all A's. But when you come as a parent back to school, sometimes getting a B is the best. Thank you, Dr. Marin and Ms. Marin, for your fantastic presentation. Thank you for listening, everybody. And if you have decided to return to school following this discussion, congratulations and good luck.
Thank you very much, Dr. Monga. What we'll do now is that